India is a democracy. I would, on a scale of 10, I would give it 5. But I also believe that India is a banana republic. Now, let me qualify that. And I say this from 3 points of view. Number one, in no other country is the majority population so actively discriminated against constitutionally and legally. Now, that can only happen in a banana republic. Here is how, Professor, I describe democracy, much along the lines of how you have. But essentially, in order to grade democracy, you look at two great institutions of democracy. One is you would look at the way elections happen in any country, so election commission. And the other is the judiciary. Because judiciary, according to me, should be above politicians and the whole political process, legislature, and of course it isn't. But the fact is Supreme Court. So essentially, if you look at the two most important indicators of democracy, the Supreme Court of India and the Election Commission, I would say by and large, barring a few faults that are traditional or they crop up every now and then, they are independent. Election Commission is independent and the Supreme Court is independent. It is, you have a lot of cases where I'll come to why I call this country a banana republic. And I talked about just one issue yesterday, which is that you had the ethnic cleansing and genocide of the majority population in Kashmir 30 years ago. And 700,000 people are displaced. In no other large economy you would find the majority population being refugees in their own country. But India is that case where Kashmiri Hindus have been discriminated against. Not only that, the Supreme Court refuses to open cases of persecution of Kashmiri Hindus, saying, quote, too much time has elapsed. Now, is that democracy?
But Anand, I have to disagree with you on each of these points. Democracy is, can you vote for things and get them done? Mm-hmm. Now, liberal internationalists want to accrue to that definition of democracy all of their own personal pet politics, their own personal pet projects. It strikes me that you're doing the same. You just have a different set of pet peeves from what liberal internationalists have. A democracy means, can you vote and get what you want? The people voted to abrogate Article 370, and you got an abrogation of Article 370. Yeah. The plight of the Pandits will be taken up when the people of India want to take up the plight of the Pandits. And until that becomes a major election issue in India, it's not going to be a major issue for the parties, because India is a democracy. When it comes to independence of institutions, no, I'm sorry. In America, courts are highly politicized. We elect our judges. No collegium system. We elect our judges in many states in the United States.
So what you're saying, I'm just extending the definition of, so, I mean, if you were to restrict the definition of democracy as just electoral, then what you're saying, of course, makes sense.
Electoral,
but as I said,
and everything needed
the Election Commission is independent. And, elections happen in this country fairly independently throughout the length and breadth of this country, state elections and central elections. But what I'm talking about is you keep on broadening the definition of democracy, and here I will include more and more things. But I just gave you one example where the Supreme Court of India doesn't want to reopen cases of murder, rape, genocide, because it feels too much time has elapsed. Now, in any democracy,
a bad thing.
That's what I mean.
But you can't say that every bad policy means there's no democracy. Yeah. Democracy means elections. It means having the necessary freedoms to support a meaningful choice. Freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, freedom to contest elections. If you have those basic freedoms, you have a democracy. Now, if you say my democracy produces policies I don't like,
so freedom
I'm sorry.
Let's come to freedom of speech, for example.
Freedom of speech.
So in India, we don't have essentially freedom of speech because it is subject to something. That's why I say it's a banana republic, and there are so many examples. Not just the center or the Modi government not exercising or giving freedom of speech, but state governments as well. I mean, there was a case 2 weeks ago where a chemistry professor from Jadavpur University had passed on or shared through an email a cartoon of Mamata Banerjee. He was arrested on that day. It took him 11 years to be acquitted by the court. And now those are the people who actually are tweeting democracy rankings when it comes and saying India is no longer democratic.
And these
Mamata
are problems
Banerjee.
of poverty. These are problems of living in a country where there is a history of communal violence. Of course, India has narrower limits on what is allowable speech because India, just to be frank, has a history of people killing each other over these things that we don't have in Australia, that we don't have in the United States.
That's a bit patronizing.
I'm sorry, but it's true.
You saying that Indians don't deserve the extent of freedom of speech that Australia does.
I'm saying Indians, through their institutions, I think have made a sensible and reasonable decision to put limits on freedom of speech that we don't accept in the United States.
Right. So
now,
according to you,
let
me finish.
Look,
it's heating up, which is good.
10 seconds.
10 seconds, all right.
Give me
the... he is really going to be a politician.
All right.
There we go.
Freedom of speech is limited, sure.
Yeah, so as I'm saying, talk to the person who's arrested and who was acquitted after 11 years. His life has been ruined. Are you telling me that being an Indian, he needed less of freedom of speech than an Australian or an American? Now, let me give you another example. I completely condemn what happened to Pawan Khera. You had a huge police presence. He made a terrible comment against the Prime Minister. He kind of made, even though some may say that it was a jocular comment, the middle name being Gautam Das instead of his Prime Minister's father's name. And the next thing you know, you have like 100 cops on the tarmac preventing him from going because someone filed an FIR in Assam, Guwahati. All those people, and I condemn that. But the funny thing is, all those people who were condemning it, saying it is the coming of the emergency, were actually celebrating when the Punjab police had whisked Tejinder Bagga away, who's a politician from the BJP, just because he said, he used a word that Mahua Moitra used in the parliament. So, I mean, I can use parliamentary language now. He said, 100 harami marenge tab ek Kejriwal paida hoga. Now, I don't know if that's correct or not, but the fact of... No, it's not. No, don't quote me on that. The fact of the matter is that a case was registered in Punjab for what he said. And the Punjab police came and actually took him from his home. He was en route to God knows what would have happened to him, tortured in Punjab. Haryana police came in and kind of freed him. The fact of the matter is, all those people who were crying the death of democracy when Pawan Khera was being arrested were celebrating the arrest of Tejinder Bagga.
I can give you another example.
So many of those.
When Article 370 was abrogated, India turned off the internet in Srinagar.
Right.
Widely criticized around the world as a restriction on freedom of speech. What did Dr. Jaishankar said? He said, we accept some restrictions in order to save many lives.
The problem is it's relative. It's subjective.
I'm an American. I come from a liberal democracy where freedom of speech is absolutely fundamental, where if you want to wave a Nazi flag in front of a Jewish synagogue, you can do that. It's your basic right as an American. We have that culture. If Indians, and it's up to you, if Indians have decided that your political speech has to be more civil...
No, I'm putting you on the spot. It's not up to us. I'm saying, is this decision better than what our state has decided?
I'm not going to say one is better than worse. I'm going to say one is what Americans want.
You being so political.
I am not going to criticize Indian democracy for making decisions that Indians believe are sensible as long...
Well, I am.
No, you can criticize it as a policy.
Of course, yeah. I can criticize American democracy and I can criticize Indian democracy.
But it doesn't limit democracy.
Now,
it doesn't limit democracy.
The reason why I believe it's a banana republic...
I'll finish the sentence. It doesn't limit democracy.
I need 10 more.
It doesn't limit democracy as long as it doesn't prevent the full expression of political thought in campaigns. If you can still campaign for office...
That's just so subjective. That's almost draconian.
If you say...
And patronizing. And I take serious offense to that as an Indian. You are saying in America and Australia, we have unfettered freedom of speech and expression. But you guys, this is suited for you. You should not do this. You should not do that. Yes.
That is not what makes India a democracy or not.
In a sense.
America is not a democracy because of freedom of speech. America is a democracy because it's elected.
You just said one of the elements of what defines a democracy is freedom of speech.
Sufficient speech to conduct political campaigns is what's necessary.
In that extent, you would rate America higher than India.
No. I would rate India freer. I'm sorry, America freer than India.
There we go.
Freer than India, yes.
Freer is not better?
I'm free.
Higher? Freer is not higher on the index?
I'm free to own and carry a gun in America.
Yes.
That's a basic civil right in America, is if I want to own a firearm, I can own a firearm, and if I want to carry it, I can carry it. Now, that's not a basic freedom in India. It's a basic freedom in America. America is freer than India.
There is basic freedom in India to carry firearms. That
doesn't make it more of a democracy.
Haven't you attended any marriages in Bihar? No, but let me define again, because maybe I wasn't very clear.
Yeah.
Why we are a banana republic. Here, Hindus are prevented from legally going to the court in demanding their temples back. Temples that have been destroyed and mosques built over it through an act of parliament.
Through an act of your parliament that your parliament can reverse, and your parliament has chosen not to reverse
Exactly.
That's
this is a place where for a year, you can blockade highways, 5 highways that connects Delhi, the capital of India.
Sure.
You can blockade them for a year. And still, the Supreme Court says, we are not going to remove those blockades. Is this not a banana republic? When you talk of press freedom.
Sure.
Now, in Chhattisgarh, a journalist complained of power cuts. He was charged with sedition. You had Kunakanam nuclear power plant activists. In one day, 8,000 of them were arrested under charges of sedition by the Congress. The BJP has done the same. I mean, in Gujarat, an editor, Mr. Patel, Dhaval Patel, not the Dhaval Patel I know of, the BJP person, but he criticized the COVID handling of the Gujarat chief minister. He was charged with sedition and arrested for 15 days.
When do the questions come?
So it's a freewheeling discussion.
Okay. Thank you.
I gauge the quality of your answers, so I'm not going to ask you many more questions. No, just joking. The point of the matter is,
the point is
the
India
rankings may be whatever they may be, whoever is coming up with those rankings there. But we have to define a better place to live in for Indians, for Americans, for Australians. And I'm afraid, Professor, you want to make Australia and America a better place for Australians and Americans to live in. But we are just friends, so please don't take it in a very antagonistic way. But I'm just saying, we deserve much better. We deserve much better on a lot of fronts.
And you may.
Let me talk about the other thing. We talk of majoritarianism for Article 370. For 70 years.
Give me my 30 seconds. Take a break. What? Okay.
Give me 10 rupees more. You can't.
Give me my 30 seconds. Take a break from the monologue. Look, everything you're saying may be true.
Yeah.
Don't convince me. Convince them. Convince the voters.
Yes.
India is a democracy. If it has policies that you don't like, you can change them. That's what the heart of a democracy is. You can't say, I don't like this policy, so India is not a democracy. The protesters are blocking the streets, so India is not a democracy. The farmers are not getting their money, so India is not a democracy.
You just now talked about freedom of speech. You said it's part of democracy.
A journalist was beat up in some town. India is not a democracy.
No, Professor, constitutionally,
that's not the question.
Constitutionally, we have been restrained. We've been shackled constitutionally. And if this government were to change the constitution, people would say this is the death of democracy. Irony. This government would like to remove, or if it likes to remove, or if it wants to remove the shackles from the constitution that are, misguiding us into believing we are a democracy, people will accuse of Modi of actually being a dictator, trying to remove things from the constitution that ought to be removed.
Look, there are two
now that is the hallmark of democracy.
There are two serious problems with Indian democracy. Would you like to hear them?
Yes, very quickly, because you just given me a tenner. I won't.
There are two serious problems with Indian democracy. One you've already gotten to, which is the extraordinary reach of the Supreme Court. The idea that the Supreme Court can appoint its own future members through the collegium system, and that it can set aside lawfully enacted constitutional amendments through the basic structure doctrine, that is unprecedented in the world. And I think that you really have to see, it may be a good thing. I can't tell you whether it's good or bad for the Supreme Court to have such powers. I can tell you that it is undemocratic for the Supreme Court to have such powers. What would be more democratic is for the Supreme Court to be beholden to the electorate, either directly or indirectly via your elected representatives. That's the first problem.
So now you're grading democracy, right?
Oh, because
you're grading it.
I'm saying that is not
First it was freedom of speech, then it was collegium system, which is logical.
No,
I'm agreeing with you.
It's not democratic because you can't vote on it.
Now,
okay. The second thing it's not democratic, so there are two major problems. The second is the lack of reapportionment in India's Lok Sabha since 1971. That lack of reapportionment is profoundly undemocratic. Democracy means one person, one vote. And India no longer has that systematically. People who are poorer, people who are more Muslim in the north of India tend to have fewer votes than people in the south of India. That may be appropriate. You may think it's a good policy, but it's certainly not democratic.
So
now, what I find troubling,
people who are more up north?
The entire north of India is underrepresented in the Lok Sabha because of the freezing of reapportionment since 1971. Now, those are two things that are undemocratic. Now, what I find troubling, as someone who studies democracy, is that not a single one of the international democracy rankings cites these two clear transgressions of international democratic norms when they criticize Indian democracy.
Not just
because
that.
They agree with these policies.
Yeah,
they refuse
the other
to
thing,
condemn
if you were to read some of the democracy rankings and the reports, they say before 2014, rarely, if ever, the governments were draconian in stifling freedom. So they completely ignore the 8,000 charges of sedition on activists and so many other things, stifling of press freedom and all that. So obviously, we're not discussing that. Incidentally, so I'm not in much disagreement with the professor and his views, except on a very lighter vein, who he calls as his guru and mentor. I don't know whether you know. The guru, as Professor calls him, was responsible for the quote-unquote coup story. And the mentor was the guy who punched someone in New York. These are the journalists who, for the professor, are...
Oh, there are three.
It's like... It's okay. It's,
you're leaving them out.
Now, my condemnation...
we have to tell people
No, let me
their
finish.
mentors
You can't interrupt me, as yet. You're not an anchor. So my condemning words will not do justice to the preposterousness of him choosing those two as his gurus and mentors. So I have to play something that will be sufficiently provide the outrage. Do you see that shriek? That shriek signifies our outrage at who you've chosen as your guru and mentor.
Look,
these are the people.
There are...
Now they say, now one second, they say journalism is the second oldest profession. These two people, journalists you've chosen as your guru and mentor, have made it the world's oldest profession.
There are three people I've learned more from.
It is, now when you say that people must, now one second, one second. You need to explain how on earth are you choosing such people who are responsible for spreading the most vicious lies and propaganda and fake news and setting false narratives over the last 2 decades as your gurus and mentors. Explain.
Would you like an answer?
Please.
All right. There are three people who've taught me more than anybody else about Indian democracy. Shekhar Gupta, absolutely number one. Rajdeep Sardesai, number two.
I just proved my point.
You wanted to hear Karan Thapar, number three. Now
it goes from bad to worse. My God.
If you like what I've been writing about Indian democracy for the past 6 months, you have to credit them. Because I didn't learn it from Anand. I am now watching Anand on YouTube.
Quite unfortunate, but
I'm starting to pick up.
The fact of the matter is, let us take a
chemistry books.
You wanted democracy, vox populi.
But
let's take a vote.
But if
how many of you think that his three gurus are worthy of being called gurus? Sorry, let me rephrase that. How many of you think that Professor's three gurus, Shekhar Gupta, Rajdeep Sardesai, and Karan Thapar, are not worthy of being called gurus? Raise your hands.
All right. Second vote.
Democracy
Quiet,
is alive.
Quiet. Second vote.
I think let's end
Second
there
vote.
and let's throw the
Second
floor
vote.
open for some questions.
Second vote.
Professor.
Second vote.
Now,
second,
one second.
please.
Any
30
questions?
seconds. Be quiet.
Any
Second
questions
vote.
for the
Second
for the
vote.
pupil of
You'll
Shekhar
have to
Gupta
stop
and
this,
Rajdeep
so we'll never
Sardesai?
get to questions. Second vote. How many of you like the education that I have received from these three gurus? Or should I change my message? Do you like the education I've received? No? Well, then I'll have to give up my compliments of Indian democracy and go back from 10 out of 10 to 5 out of 10.
No, but seriously, you need to, I mean, you might be a good pupil, but, I mean, you need to choose your gurus well. We have couple of minutes, I think.